and let's give her full throttle. Yeah, that was close. Let's go. Great. Hello there everyone, and welcome to another episode of DM Car Reviews. Today we are driving a 2022 Audi S5 Premium, and this is a very rare trim because it has the Alcantara suede seats and a physical, real analog gauge cockpit. So these are hard to find. But let's get this beast fired up and let's go take a look outside and take her for a spin. I do think this specific S5 has the Sport exhaust resonator installed because it does sound louder to me than most S5s that I've driven. I personally had a 2021 S5 Sportback in turbo blue. So this one's just the darker blue, but same exact car as mine. Everything is identical, the rims, the package. Mine was exactly the same. It was a great ride, I loved it. It did have a little bit of ups and downs, and I will go into more detail about it, but those are very minor things and all about preference. But let's look at the back seat. We got high quality materials everywhere. I love the suede, the carbon fiber. So hopping in the back, for a sporty car, these are incredibly comfy rear seats that hug you, and I could literally sit here for hours and hours. We got a black headliner, some lights. So surprisingly, the rear seats here are so comfortable I could put them right with the top tier luxury cars. So cozy. And the material here feels great. You don't get sweaty. You're always warm, never cold, never too hot. Perfect material. I prefer this much more over the Napa option. And it also holds shape much better over the years, whereas the Napa starts to wrinkle. We have an automatic liftgate. Plenty of space here. You can put all your belongings. You got the cargo cover. Let's take a look at the engine bay. See what is under the hood. And under the hood we have a 3.0 liter turbo V6, a very torquey engine. Pumps out 349 horsepower and 369 feet-pound of torque. Now those numbers are very conservative. It's more like 370 horsepower and 420 torque. The low end and the mid-range are incredible in this car. When you press the gas, even in comfort mode, you are already flying. And it's probably the most aggressive comfort mode that I've ever seen in any car. So here we are greeted to comfortable front seats. They are tight in my taste. I am 6'2", and if you put your arms back, you'll feel your armpits hitting the seat. And you know, we can try to deflate the bolsters, but that doesn't help too much. So over long trips, it may get fatiguing here. We do have the massage. It's just the inflatable lumbar. Feels cool, love it. I really like the physical dials here. Easy to use, straightforward. Now this design is rather simple. Same design you'll find in an A4, in an A5, so it's not necessarily anything that is going to differ. Even in the RS5, the interior is identical beside the RS badge. And this Premium actually has a nicer steering wheel than the other ones. It's round, it's sporty. I like it way more than the regular Audi steering wheel. We got some storage space here. We got an electronic shade. And with this shade, when you close it, You can see a little bit through it, like just little spots of the sky you can kind of see when it's bright. We got storage, adjustable armrest. No auto hold for America, unfortunately. This is a blank poverty button, as they call it in Porsche. Let's do wiper test. Wiper test. Now the hood here is very flat, so don't expect any, you know, curvature or fancy lines. It's just a very simple flat hood, simple design. For example, cars like the Kia Stinger do have a more, I'd say, interesting cabin design, but this is simple, easy to use. You got your infotainment here. No navigation in the premium, only Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. We got our settings. The one thing that I do wish that Audi did have here was the tire pressure warning monitor. It doesn't tell you the exact PSI that you have. We do have our blind spot. Actually, no, we don't have blind spot in this car. Some of them do with the convenience package and some of them don't. This one doesn't, unfortunately. We also have different drive modes. Comfort, auto, dynamic. We're gonna obviously start in comfort. We have a backup camera. Quality is a 6 out of 10. Kind of blurry, maybe 7 out of 10. Very distorted sides. We have parking sensors. All right, so I think we should be ready to go now. Now, another thing with this trim right here, the gloss black, it's nice, but it does scratch pretty easily. So get that wrapped, and the paint of the car. It gets a lot of chips from rocks. It's a very sensitive paint. In about 6 months into ownership, I already had a lot of chips on my paint. Now, at low speeds, the steering here is very light. Like, you can literally just turn it with a pinky. Super duper light. We got Volkswagen pedals, the gas pedals, and we dive them in, and we get a surge of torque. A surge of torque. Plenty powerful. I've always been amazed by how torquey the S5 is, just how much power it gives you even at low RPMs. It's incredible. And it just has that sporty vibe. The ride feels great. It's a little bit sporty. Obviously, it's a sporty car. It's sportier than A4, A5. Sporty suspension. But do you really need to get the dynamic, like the sports package and the dynamic steering? I personally don't think so. I've driven the S5s with and without all of that, and I can't really tell much difference, at least for normal use and even like aggressive driving. We got some nice pops in the back. As you can see, pop, 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 pop. You can hear them, right? Very nice. Definitely feels like a sport resonator to me. I think mine was quieter, for sure. But let's go to the freeway. We're gonna let the Acura go away. I'm gonna check that there's no cars. And let's give her full throttle. As you can see, power here is just effortless. Very easy on acceleration. And it kicks you in nicely. Now, space-wise, it is a tighter car. You do feel like the roof is pretty low, at least for me, and you sit below the majority of traffic. Now, cars like the X3 M40i, the GLC 43, they do feel much more spacious, and they sit higher, obviously, which is to be expected for an SUV. But I love the ride. It's a perfect balance between stiffness and comfort. Yeah, that was close. Wow. Also in the sun, this becomes very reflective, so you have to like block it with your hand. Now the seats here feel super sporty. They're like very sporty. They pretty much just enclose you like this. So if you have very wide shoulders or, you know, are of a bigger build, you might find these a little too tight. Now the torque, amazing. For some reason, there is a lot of traffic today on the freeway. But for now, let's cool down the car a bit. I don't want it to heat up because these S5s with the stock intercooler do heat up pretty quickly in 90-degree weather. Unfortunately, the intercoolers that they use in the S5 is actually the same intercooler that is used in the A5 with the 4-cylinder. Don't know if that's the best solution. They should have made it bigger. I've never encountered M340i's or M440i's heat soaking. They've been always very strong on that part. But with these cars, there's definitely some prevalent heat soak if you drive it aggressively, especially in the hot summer days. But like I said, the torque here is just so good. It's so easy to drive. And you don't feel any speed on it whatsoever. So going at a fast speed, it kind of feels like you're just cruising. All right, but let's take this exit and start heading the other way. And then we will do our acceleration testing and wrap up the test drive. All right, let's also do a speedometer check for accuracy. So at about 90, we are at 88. So about 2 miles per hour off. which is really good actually. Still consistently 2 miles per hour off. Overall, I gotta say, very enjoyable to drive it on the freeway. It's very, very nimble. Love the handling, but it does have a little bit of like floatiness when you give it some quick steering, as if it like just goes like this. Just check the turn-in. At the lower speeds, the Quattro is phenomenal. Excellent grip. Love it. But let's do our acceleration testing up next. All right, so we're gonna do our first acceleration test. This is gonna be just from idle in dynamic S mode. We're gonna wait, lead the traffic through, and do 3, 2, 1, let's go. Great. 5.86 to 60. There we go. Good brakes. Let's look at the times. So 0 to 60 came in at 5.8 seconds. 0 to 100 kilometers came in 6.06. 1/8 mile came in at 9.07 at 82.8. And we didn't go the full quarter mile. So here we did 5.86 to 60, 9.46 at 84, and the 60 to 100 at 6.94, and here was 6.96. So very consistent results, very similar on the time. But let's turn around and do one more run on the way back, see what we can get. So come to full stop. 3, 2, 1, let's go. Let's go. 6.08 to 60. All right. All right, so this time, not the best result. We did 6.16 to 60, and 1/8 mile was, yeah, 9.32. All right, let's come to a full stop. All right, 3, 2, 1, let's go. I'm not gonna go the full quarter mile because I don't know what's down there. There's been some sketch activity, so I don't wanna risk it. But here we got 0 to 60 in 6.2, and the 1/8 mile in 9.37 at 79.95. So just like I mentioned, there is some up. I think that's him over there. Yep. Oh yeah, that's him over there, trying to catch people. But yeah, the heat soak is pretty noticeable. But let's wait till this car goes by and let's launch her up. All right, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Excellent launch. Ajax shifts are going. 5.22. All right, we'll leave it at that. So we did 0 to 60 in 5.16 and 0 to 62 in 5.46, and the 1th mile at 8.74 and 82 miles an hour. So just like I mentioned, the heat soak here is pretty bad. You can see how progressively our runs started getting worse and worse with each attempt. We went from a 5.8 to a 6 to a 6.2, and even with launch we couldn't get out of the 5s. And this is absolutely normal for these cars in this kind of weather after a couple of runs. Perfectly normal. So for today's test drive, we're not gonna go on the back windy roads right now because I've already filmed so many test drives of this car and it pretty much feels exactly the same as all of them do. Take the turns at lower speeds, you got beautiful handling, it grips, but if you start going faster, then you kind of start to weave out into the turns. I don't know if that's understeer, whatever you want to call it, or why that happens. It's just the way the weight is balanced and how the chassis is tuned up. But you do have a good sense of how this car drives. And as far as I've mentioned, the heat soak, it is a common issue. So when you get this car, you need to do a few things. You need to get it wrapped, PPF wrapped, the paint. You need to get this wrapped. Get a good intercooler, a Wagner or whatever you want to get. You need that bigger intercooler if you're driving actively in the summer. Also, frameless windows. Looks cool, but if it's cold and they freeze up, there's a problem. Or if you're driving your date and she gets out of the car and slams the door, you can have a problem too. So be careful, be mindful of that. But beside that, I gotta say, it feels amazing. I love the way it drives. Now it is, like I said, to the tighter side, so it does feel snuggy and sporty, which is great. But overall, I've definitely highly enjoyed this S5. It's a great ride. It's got great power, moves well. I remember I was taking my S5 to the mountains one time, and there was a lot of straightaways where I would accelerate, and I was going pretty quick. And after a while, I've noticed that the power, it's not as aggressive anymore. Like, you would have to really give it more gas and it wouldn't accelerate as fast as it would before. And this Explorer Sport floored it in front of me, and I floored it. It took me a little bit of time to get past him. And that was an older Explorer too, not the newer ones. So that was the moment I kind of realized that there's definitely some heat soak going on, and I was right. Same with my S5. After I did a few runs on it, like 2-3 runs, or I was driving actively and I would want to accelerate, I would definitely feel it start to warm up. Now, if you're driving in the wintertime or the cold season, it's perfect. You can definitely do mid-4s on it. My best was like a 4.26 in the right conditions. So it goes from a 5.1 to a 4.26 just based on the weather. But on average and in good conditions, you're going to be seeing about 4.5, 4.6. As if you go watch my older S5 videos, I test them in the wintertime, in the springtime, and now summertime, and you can see that their acceleration figures are all over the place depending on the season. So there's no like consistency with these stock intercoolers. To summarize the test drive, I've really enjoyed this S5. I definitely had a lot of fun with it. Great car. I wish it had the blind spot, and I do prefer BMW's blind spot system much more over Audi's. It gives you that feedback in the wheel. Seats are pretty good. Like I said, they're comfy sports seats, but they are tighter. So for longer trips, be ready to experience a little bit of fatigue. I've definitely had that in my S5 when I drove longer distances. But beside that, amazing car, great grip, great handling, can't go wrong. But let me know what you thought about this test drive below, and let me know what car you would pick. This, the M440i Grand Coupe, the Giulia, or whatever other option. And make sure to smash that like and subscribe button. And until next time.